Welcome to Teaching Truth. My name is Glenn Cartwright. Well, today we come to our fifth and our final study in relation to the Transfiguration of Jesus as we find it in Matthew chapter 17. Over the last few days we've been looking at this particular passage, getting underneath the topsoil, engaging the bristling ideas of the passage and discovering those truths from this passage that God, by His Spirit, would, I believe, wish to apply to our hearts. We've also discovered three somethings that the disciples experienced. Something they saw, something they heard, and something they received. And in relation to that, asking ourselves the question, are we large-minded? Are we listening? And are we learning? And today I want to bring us to the fourth something. And it's this: something they became. Something they became. You see, the Peter, James and John who came down the mountain were a different and a changed Peter, James and John from who went up the mountain. We can never be the same again following an encounter with and an experience with Jesus. When we see Jesus in all His brilliance, when we are captivated by Jesus, when we are, as it were, taken into the presence of Jesus in worship and in adoration, we can never be the same again, as it were, when we come down from that mountaintop, from that meeting with the Master. And so my fourth and final question today, as I ask it of myself, I ask it of you, is this: are we a loving people? Are we so in love with Jesus because we have seen Him, as it were, spiritually? We have been captivated by His brilliance. We have been touched. We have been comforted. We have heard His voice. Are we lovers of Jesus, just as those disciples were? I want to share a poem with you that was written by Malcolm Duncan. It talks about being in love with Jesus and what that means. It's called God Gazer. Let me read it to you. And may this be our prayer. I want to be a God gazer, captured by the brilliance that springs from the radiance of you. I want to be a God gazer, not a cheap food grazer or a easy option laser. No, I want to be a trailblazer for the ordinary, everyday life. I want to be a God gazer, not just copying the ways that shimmer brighter in the haze of bygone rays and good old days. No, I want to be a God gazer, looking beyond the trappings of success and cutting through the stucco of respectability like a laser piercing darkness. I want to be a God gazer, reaching for the stars and seeing beauty in the moment by becoming fluent in the language of the God who is here, who is now. I want to be a God gazer until my imagination is saturated, my thirst is sated, my passion is stirred, until my intellect is stirred and stretched as far as it can be, until my yearning yearns for others to be free. I want to be a God gazer, not a meetings manager or a people pleaser or a tea and sympathy vicar, not a leadership trainer, not a speaker, but a seeker. I want to be a God gazer. And for a moment I want God to gaze through me. I want others to see his eyes, his heart, his mind, his love above everything else in me. I want to be a God gazer, captured by the brilliance that springs from the radiance of you. Are we so in love with Jesus that is our prayer, that we want to be a God gazer because we have been captured by the brilliance that springs from the radiance of Jesus? That's my prayer for myself and for you. So let me recap. Are we a large-minded people? Are we a listening people, listening for that voice of God? Are we a learning people? And are we a loving people? Are we so in love with Jesus? Have we been so captivated by Jesus, born out of that experience with Jesus, of that meeting with the Master, of that experience of the Holy Spirit in our life? I want to be a God gazer, captured by the brilliance that springs from the radiance of you. Words that could well have had been uttered by Peter, James and John on that mountain that day. It was an unforgettable experience for them. They, in a sense, were God gazers, captured and captivated by the brilliance that sprung from his radiance. May that be true of our lives, and may we have that experience even this day with Jesus, the glorified Lord, the darling of heaven crucified, the one whom we worship, whom we praise and adore in all his brilliance and in all his majesty. May our prayer be simply this: I want to be a God gazer, captured by the brilliance that springs from the radiance of you. God bless you.